Hey folks, I'm Rob.
And I'm Nathan.
And we are Two Guys in a Ride. Today we're excited to bring you another virtual car show featuring the garages, collections, and owners out at the Chanhassen Autoplex.
The Chanhassen Autoplex features a monthly summer car show the last Saturday of every month from April through September. Unfortunately, due to current circumstances, the May in-person car show has been canceled.
Well, that's where we come in. The good folks over at the Autoplex invited us to film several garages and see the collections and meet the owners. That's where we're headed right now.
But before we do, every month the Autoplex gives back to a different charity. And this month's charity recipient is Happy Tails Rescue of Minnesota.
Happy Tails is a non-profit organization dedicated to rescuing homeless and abandoned animals.
By working with committed volunteers, foster homes, local veterinarians, trainers, and boarding facilities, they are able to rescue dogs and cats, providing them with loving temporary care until a well-matched and carefully screened forever home can be found.
So please consider making a donation at tailsrescue.org.
Also, give us a like and click on the subscribe button down below and ring the bell notification so you never miss a video.
That's right. So what do you say, Nate?
Oh, let's go for a ride. Hi folks, I'm Nathan with Two Guys in a Ride, and today we're out here at the Chanhassen Autoplex and we're giving you some virtual garage tours. Now, we have 9 other garages, virtual tours that are already posted on our YouTube site, so click on the link above to get those, and we're bringing you a whole bunch more. So today I'm here with Nick, and we are at his garage out here in Chanhassen. And you know, Nick, one of the things that I think is just really fun for us, and I think for viewers, is to see how different every garage is. You have what I would call a working garage. And in fact, you know, let's just start with this awesome Jeep that you're in front of. This has a little bit of history. Tell us about the Jeep.
When I was 16, it was my first car I ever owned, and it just kind of morphed into what it is today, and it's still there, and I'll probably never get rid of it. Most people can't say they still have their first car. So
no, that's just really, now you did a little bit of a, you bought it stock.
Yep.
And some springs went on it, so you did a little bit of a lift on it because it wasn't that much more expensive. And so in looking at the garage itself, you know, it's full of tools, so, but there are some toys.
Yep.
So if we take a look over now between here and up there, you want to tell us what this all is?
Yep, it's kind of a home build golf simulator that I did about 4 years ago, and the screen folds down, and it's a 12-foot projection screen, and turn off all the lights and shut the door and just have a good time. And
so you golf, but it shows it like the ball going down the fairway and everything.
Yep.
Boy, it's gotta really bite to come out here and work. So and then, you know, if we there's a loft a little off there, and hopefully maybe we'll get a chance to see that in a little bit. But stepping on back in here, you have something I've not seen in the garage yet, and that is you have an open ceiling.
Yep.
So you can kind of get an idea, you know, the electrical wiring and any of the piping that's running through ventilation or whatever. But I think that's really neat. That's really a workshop feel to me.
Yep.
And let's, you know, this is obviously the project you're working on now. So it's a what year Ford?
1934 Ford half-ton.
Okay. And tell us the story, because folks, there's a really neat story about this truck and where it came from. So tell us about that, Nick.
So my father grew up on a farm in South Dakota, and in 1970 bought this as a rolling chassis for $50 from his neighbor. And it sat outside the chicken coop in the yard for about 48 years until we went and picked it up and brought it back here.
Wow.
So,
and in fact, our condolences, your dad passed away several years ago, left the truck on the farm, and then one of your uncles.
Yep, my uncle said, it has to stay there until my nephew comes and picks it up, and we went and picked it up, and we did that shortly before my father passed away, so he was here when we built out this garage and did everything. So
wow, and so I mean that's just so cool. I think to be working on a project that it really in many ways your dad started.
Yep, he disassembled it. I wish I had his brain to put it back together, because he'd know what all the pieces are.
I think you're doing just fine. I think you're selling yourself a little short. So tell us a little bit about this, because what are your plans? What have you done?
So the outside is going to be completely stock. I'm not going to chop it, not going to touch it, paint it, do anything. It's going to be full fenders, original hood, Ford motor. I will not put a Chevy in a Ford.
Yeah.
And independent Corvette rear end. Custom built Mustang 2 style front suspension. So it's going to have AC, radio, all the comforts. The inside will have a full interior. So I want the inside and the running gear to be like a new car, and the outside to be original.
That's going to look really neat. That's going to look amazing. I love the patina that it has right now. I mean, that's just awesome. And obviously you've done a little bit of work here to fit this engine in.
I kind of Frenched back the original frame. What my dad originally was going to do is, that's a perfect cutout for a wheelbarrow. And he was going to put the wheelbarrow in there, weld that in, and use that as the recessed firewall. And I just could never wrap my head around it. I knew what it was going to look like, and a friend of mine has one that has that done. I wanted to French the original piece back 4 inches just to kind of keep the look, but allow the motor to fit.
And you have a background. In fact, that's one of your full-time job. Is engineering.
I work for an engineering consulting company, so I've always had a mechanical mind and wanted to do things. And part of it is I'm too cheap to pay anybody. So I'll learn how to do it. I'll learn how to wire a house or do anything just because I'm too cheap to pay somebody.
But you do learn how to do it in the process, which is I mean, I think that's such a valuable thing to learn in the first place. So now you've got some other things here. Obviously, we can look around. We see a bunch of tools. But we were talking about the sandblaster because that's an unusual piece to have. I mean, you got to know what you're doing if you want to have a sandblaster. But you actually built this one. Yep,
I made concrete countertops at home, and those are the melamine forms for the countertops. And then using those pieces, I made the sandblaster box just to kind of repurpose the parts and make it the size I needed it. And
right. Now, I noticed that either you don't watch TV very much, or only like short people do it. It's stuck behind the refrigerator, behind some fenders.
It is back there. It rarely gets used. Normally the radio just comes on the second I walk in. So
it's a nice place to relax and to do your work. Now down here you also have a refrigerator. But you also have a loft upstairs. Okay, so and we'll get up there in a little bit, but. Do you have another fridge up there? Okay, so this is just kind of for drinks down here.
It's convenience.
It's convenience. It is. I mean, if you're trekking all the way up the stairs, a couple times a day, that it can be tiring. All right, now let's step outside, because outside you got a few. You got a couple of toys that personally I'm hoping you're going to look the other way, and I'm going to quickly run away with. Actually, on either side you have them. But let's start with the fun little toys on the side here. And you got these because they reminded you of, they're Jeeps.
Yep, it's a fun toy. So
do adults drive these, or are these for kids?
I bought them for the kids.
Okay. But you notice the kids are not driving them, folks. Nick has got them out as his garage. So these go about 30.
They'll go about 30, 32.
With an adult in there.
Yeah, with an adult in there. And my kids are 7. I don't let them drive it yet. It's 300 pounds. It has a motor.
Right, and
I can't trust them with it yet.
Gears.
3 forward and 1 reverse.
3 forward and 1 reverse. It doesn't have a clutch system?
Nope. It's semi-automatic.
Okay.
Clutchless.
It's got turn signals. It's got headlamp.
Hydraulic brakes.
I mean, you've seen. What it reminds me of is customized golf carts, where they take a golf cart body to put a Jeep top. This has been built to have that body from the get-go. And I know it's starting to rain, so we're going to do this real quick. But right behind us here, we have an old military truck. So tell us about this.
It's a 1954 Dodge M37.
Okay, so similar to the civilian version of the Power Wagon.
Yep.
Just the military version.
Yep, drivetrain's very similar. just some different body components and that type of thing. So
Okay, and so what was the reason that you had in mind for buying this?
I've always wanted some military vehicle. I
Okay.
don't know why. I would drive an M1 or an H1 Hummer if they were easier to title in Minnesota, but they aren't. So it's kind of filled a void where I always just wanted kind of a military vehicle, and the mini Jeep fits in the back, so when I go to a car show, I can throw it in the back.
So you can throw one of these right in the back there.
Yep.
Oh, that is just neat. And this was actually, you bought this from another military person.
Yep, it was a retired Army Navy guy actually, who took two of them, put it together, kind of restored it, brought it to where it is. I've only had it about a month, so I just picked it up this spring.
But it's nice. It's I mean, you can get in and go.
Yep, hop in and go.
So there's anything you have to restore, it's just use it.
You can putz with it. There's some electrical gremlins and that type of thing, but that's easy.
So what's the fun of owning a classic vehicle versus some gremlins? All right, so here we are upstairs, Nick, in your what we call a loft area.
Yep.
Typically, this is more like a little apartment because you're walled off on this side. Did you put this up here, or was this up here when you bought it?
Nope, you buy these as a blank shell, and my father and I did all the construction to build the mezzanine, stairs, walls,
everything. So let me ask you a question. I'm just curious about your point of view as an owner. Now we've been in a number of garages. Most of the garages have a smaller loft area, and they're just a little fence that comes up, kind of a wall. And the two that we've been into today, you actually have a physical wall like a house.
Yep.
What was and your floor is much wider. So why did you decide to build it? Obviously, maybe when you're out here, I think you would have seen the other lofts.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So what made you decide to do this?
We made the loft as big as we could, yet still be able to fit the biggest car we could think of. A 76 Cadillac on a lift in front of there. Not saying I'd ever own one, but that was kind of the mentality, was make this as big as you can just so you have a place to be, stay, hang out, but have enough room in the front to still be able to put a car up on a lift and not
have it. Because you could do that. I mean, you have enough room to do that. In fact, you could fit a car on a lift, and then you have a car next to it.
Yep.
Yet again. And then, of course, you have the convenience of, basically having a kitchen table, a dining room table. You have got actually a sort of a full kitchen. You've got a microwave, stove, sink, and refrigerator. Most importantly, you got the coffee cup, the coffee maker, and then you do have a 3/4 bathroom, which includes a shower, which is really nice, and then a little bit of storage area. And then, of course, it's air conditioned up here, and your floors down there are heated.
Heated in floor, and this is also a heat pump in the winter. So you can use that to run, or to get heat in the winter.
Oh, so that'll heat up here as well. So it does both. That's interesting. I don't think I've seen that before, or it does both. That is really neat. Have you seen it before, Rob?
Some of those units,
Okay.
you can do air and heat.
Yeah, I hadn't seen it before. Now, what is this?
That is a Wi-Fi heater.
A Wi-Fi heater.
So if I'm at work, I normally keep this about 50 in the winter downstairs. There's just no reason to keep it that warm if I'm not here that much.
Right.
It's a Wi-Fi heater, so if I leave work in St. Paul, I can turn it up to 70, and when I get here, it's 70.
Oh, okay, so it's controllable.
Yep, it's a 15 watt or 1500 watt electric heater.
Yeah, like a fancy milk house heater, but you can control it by Wi-Fi. Well, that's really nice. So you can walk in, you're not freezing for another half an hour where it warms up. That is just awesome. Well, Nick, thank you so much for taking your time to show us your garage and your loft area. I have one last question for you, and that is, what's your favorite thing out here?
Just being here. It's relaxing. You can just come out here and relax, and it's nice to hang out with the neighbors and see people, or it's nice to just get something done. Hang out by yourself. Yeah, and get things done.
I think it's the same thing when people head up to their lake cabins and say it's just nice to get away.
And it's nice to start a project, and if you don't want to finish it, you shut the door and you come back 2 weeks later. And you don't stare at it in the garage at home.
Right.
So.
That's just awesome. Well, Nick, thank you so much on behalf of 2 Guys in a Ride for sharing your time with us today.
No problem. Thank you.